Welcome to the mini webinar on case studies. What I'm going to do here is give you an overview of some tips and elements that you're going to need in your case study for this course. This is going to appear as a short webinar that you can view at any time. So let's go over the issues involving the case study. Remember, your case study is going to be 4 to 7 pages, exclusive of charts and graphs, title page, bibliography. You need to include at least one chart or graph, and you need to include 5 bibliographic references. Now, what I'm going to do from here on out is give you some tips that will help you get through the case study without creating an enormous amount of trauma for you. Good luck, and I hope this works and helps out in the process. The concept of the assignments in this course follows Bloom's taxonomy. The idea of Bloom's taxonomy is we have greater overall wisdom about a particular topic by looking at it different ways. Simple knowledge is recalled, and then we comprehend it and understand it. That's what a reflection is supposed to be about. The application of knowledge is the debates, but the case study is supposed to bring you to the point where you can analyze, synthesize, and evaluate information. The idea of this is you're going to have better wisdom and an overall better viewpoint of the world economy if you can analyze, synthesize, and evaluate. This is the purpose of the case study. The first tip is to write. You should immediately write 1 page on your topic. You're not going to be able to produce a piece of writing unless you write. Get a journal or sit down at a computer and try to write out 250 words. Write first. What should you write? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in the structure of the case study. You have to structure your case this particular way, but this is the easiest way I've been able to find to get students to produce a case that's high quality in a short period of time without having a great cost and trauma. In the first part, you're going to put an introduction. An introduction should introduce you to the case. For example, let's say we're going to talk about Brazil developing a computer technology industry. They're developing this because they need to put to use many of their college graduates who otherwise would go to the United States or Europe and work. Second, that they need to expand outside of just resource-based industries like copper, gold, and oil. Okay, so that would be my introduction. Okay, then you're going to put a theory, and this is going to be about a page, maybe 2 pages, where you're going to expound on a particular theory. Number 3, you're going to do storytelling, where you go into great detail about what particularly was done by the country, the company, the organization that you're working with. This can go on for a couple pages, or this can go on for 20 pages. Remember, it's 7 pages exclusive of charts and graphs. If you go over that, first look if you can reduce your story. If you're over that and you can't get it shorter than 7 pages, come and talk to me and I'll be happy to help you out. Finally, you're going to have at least a page, if not 2 pages, on conclusions. Depends on how much detail you want to get into. Next, you're going to have a problem that you're going to have to illustrate. You have a theory, okay? But a theory needs to be illustrated by a particular problem. What kind of problems can be illustrated? For example, what was the problem that the particular organization was facing? In the case of Brazil, maybe it's just that they need to grow more. Okay, how did they solve this? What were the implications of the problems or solution? And what greater insights might you find? For example, what were the problems that Brazil was facing? Well, maybe they cannot grow their economy. How did they solve this? They just decided to develop a new industry, computer technology. What's the implication of this? Well, the implication is maybe that the industry is not going to grow because there's big outside companies that are going to make sure that their products sell first, or that they're going to be able to produce their products at a lower price. Therefore, Brazil is going to protect their economy. This is called the infant industry hypothesis. Okay? And then last, what greater insight do you see? Maybe that this relates to a particular theory. What theory? Kicking away the ladder. Kicking away the ladder comes from one of my favorite economists. His name is Ha-Joon Chang. He was a student of Stiglitz at Cambridge, and he says that developed nations use a mix of free trade and protectionism whenever it suits them more. Once they become advanced, that they want to prevent others from adopting their strategy, and they kick away the ladder. This is a great theory to use if you're going to talk about the trade war between the United States and China. That the United States was an extremely protectionist nation for many, many years, for most part of the 20th century. From 1900 to 1948, the United States was the most protectionist country in the world. Now that China is doing the same thing, the United States is trying to say, no, you can't do that. They're trying to kick away the ladder. Try to build a cause-effect relationship. There's a cause. What is the effect? What is the implications? This cause-effect relationship creates a real nice narrative inside your case study. Remember, the theory must be related to the conclusion. So let's say I'm talking about kicking away the ladder, and I'm going to explain the entire idea of kicking away the ladder in the theory part of the paper. I want to make sure to refer to that in the conclusion. That the conclusion is not going to be, in this case study we saw how Brazil developed a technology industry. Now, you're going to say, Brazil developed a technology industry, and this is an example of kicking away the ladder because of 3 reasons. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that would be a more solid, more resolute conclusion that can bring the reader to greater understanding, which is what you're supposed to be doing. Try to have a case that has impact. There's something that really impacts the world. There's lots of different ways to do this. One is by looking at what's the qualitative impact or the quantitative impact. Let's go to Brexit. The quantitative impact of Brexit is maybe the economies of Europe, their economies are going to grow at a lower rate, 1%. That's very easy to quantify. What's the qualitative impact, though? Well, unfortunately, there's probably going to be ruptures in economic structures, or there's going to be bad blood between the United States and France, or the United States and Germany, Britain and Germany, or Britain and France, because Britain isn't importing as many cars. That could be a qualitative impact that may not be able to be measured, but nonetheless be very important. This would imply that you need to use hard numbers. It's important to try to use these numbers that are very, very clear. Where do you get these numbers? One of the best places for economic data is trading economics. Trading economics collates information from different economic institutes around the world and puts them in one particular page. Now, you can search for them by country, by markets, by indicators, by forecasts, but notice it has almost every country in the world. And what you do is click on top of one particular country, and then you're going to get all of the economic statistics for that particular country. Be aware, you're going to get better statistics if you use a developed world country. For example, the United States is going to have many more statistics than El Salvador. Or Britain is going to have many more statistics than East Timor. So you might want to look very quickly to see what statistics are available before you get very deep in your paper. Here's some of the statistics available. For example, the GDP of India, or the unemployment rate, the balance of trade. But they're not just big macroeconomic statistics. For example, you'll have information on consumer confidence or business confidence. You'll have information on the number of cars purchased. You'll have information on the number of women who have children. There's going to be an enormous amount of information there, and oftentimes it goes back 10 or 20 years. Again, it depends on the country. Do beware if you're going to use China. China's statistics are sometimes missing, or sometimes inaccurate, or sometimes incomplete. It's not so much that it's a communist government and they're trying to hide information, but there's been a complete reorganization of the Chinese economy in the last 25 years, and the economy is still maturing. You'll see this on any country that is an immature economy, Vietnam or Cambodia, you'll see the same thing. So when you choose your topic, it might be good to keep this in mind. Another excellent resource, which I showed in the last webinar, was the Observatory of Economic Complexity. Here you're going to get information on trade and different trade-related statistics. For example, here's the exports of India for a particular year, 2016. Notice that their largest exports are refined petroleum, diamonds, and jewelry. Okay. Now, you can look at it as far as particular products, but you can also look at it by country. Here you'll see that the largest export partner of India is actually the United Arab Emirates. So what this tells me is they're exporting a lot of jewels to the United Arab Emirates, probably the United States as well. Now, there's lots of different statistics that you can use over here. You can spend all day looking around here, so don't lose a lot of time, because it's very common that people will get into this site and be very interested, so beware of that. Graphics are important and required. You have to use at least one table chart or graph. What kind of graphics can you use? One great place is Canva. Canva, Pictionary, there's a lot of, PictoChart, I'm sorry, Pictionary is a game. PictoChart. There's a lot of great sites out there where you can make graphics simply and easily. This one is made in Canva. Good, this is an example of an infographic. Canva, PictoChart, many other sites make simple infographics where you combine the pictures and graphics together. They're very easy to make, and they make a big impact on your case study as a whole. It's important to use captions. When you insert a chart or a graph, use captions. If you don't know how to use them, let me explain how. So first, what you're going to do after you put in, let's say, a picture, you're going to select that picture, okay, with your mouse. You're just going to touch your mouse on top of it. Then you're going to click right. And once you click right, there's going to be something that says Insert Captions. We'll see this in the next slide. And then you're going to have to label your particular caption. So this is a table. You select the entire table so that it's all blue. And then you click right and you see where it says Insert Captions. Next, a pop-up will come up and it will say captions. You're going to have to choose the type of caption you want. Tables are for tables. Charts are for line charts, pie charts, such and so on. Figures are everything else, graphics or photos. Now, beware that sometimes you're going to have to change these because they're going to be in the language of your Microsoft. So you're going to have to change the word figura, which could appear in Portuguese, Spanish, or Italian, into figure. Then after the colon, you're going to give the chart or graphic a name. So you might say GDP of Italy since 2015. So your entire caption would say Chart 1, GDP of Italy since 2015. Now, the beautiful thing in Microsoft Word is that this will always update your charts, will always update the numbers of the chart, graph, or figure. So if you put in a figure on page number 5, and then that's going to be figure number 1. But then if at a later time you put in another figure on page number 2, the figure on page number 2 will be figure number 1. And the figure on page number 5 will automatically turn into figure number 2. Microsoft is a great tool. Good. So here you can also group things. So notice that you have a picture, and then you need to group it with the idea of figure 4. Remember that you remember the grouping tool can be really, really helpful. Another great tool, and I didn't put it in here, was PowerPoint. PowerPoint has the graphics feature. You can create fantastic graphics and you can move them over to Microsoft Word and they integrate perfectly. Okay, so remember that's another tool. I didn't include any pictures of that because I thought you would know it already. Now, why do we put in the caption? Because after putting in the caption, you're going to be able to reference better. There's nothing worse for me as a reader than to have somebody say, as in the previous table, and there's 5 tables in the paper. I don't know which table they're referring to. Thus, by putting in the captions, you can say, as we saw in table number 2. Then I clearly know what you're referring to, and you do as well. So, remember to reference. Your bibliography is important. You have to write a simple bibliography that has to have at least 5 charts, 5 references. Some of those can be references from the course, but you need to go out and do additional references. Okay. Now, making a bibliography can really be a pain in the arse, but I'm going to give you a great tool. Good. This is an example of BibMe, which is an online source that you can use to make a bibliography. What you do is you put your URL of where you found the information, either a journal or a book or something, in the white space. Then you're going to push the yellow button search. Okay. Now it takes a little practice because you're going to have to decide whether it's a magazine, a book, or maybe a movie, which would appear in other. Then you have your choice of different biographical systems that you can use. For example, over here in the black box that I just wrote in, you can see that it can be APA, MLA, or Chicago. Those of you from Europe probably use Chicago. Those of you from the United States probably use MLA. The school wants you to use APA, so use APA if you can. Now on the page, on the final page, after you make your bibliography, there's going to be a button that says Save as Doc or Save as Word. and you're going to want to push that button, and it's going to kick out your entire bibliography. This is an example of an annotated bibliography. You just have to do a simple bibliography for this course. Now, I hope that these tips help you out. This is the first video that I've made like this, so I hope this works. And any help you need, please let me know. I'm happy to help. Have a good day, and see you soon.